Welcome to The Dental Brief, the podcast that delivers actionable insights and expert strategies to help dental professionals like you grow, lead, and succeed. I'm your host, Patrick Shavasty, the president of Omni Premier Marketing. Every week at The Dental Brief, we bring you real conversations from expert speakers that offer expert advice and quick tips that make a real difference in practices nationwide. Whether you're a general dentist or run a multi-location practice, we've got you covered with content that's designed to help you attract more patients, to streamline your operations, reduce headaches in managing your practice, and increase your profitability. If you're ready to elevate your practice, be sure to subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and let's dive into today's episode of The Dental Brief. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Dental Brief. So excited for today's guest. I'm going to jump right in. He's the CEO of Spear Education, Mr. Coggin. Matt Coggin, say hello to everyone.
Yeah, hello everyone. Patrick, great to meet you. Excited to be on today.
Yeah, we're obviously excited to have you here. I know you're a very busy guy. I want to start with this. It might kind of seem like a little bit of an elementary question, but tell me, how'd you get involved with dentistry? How'd you start? What was Spear Institute and start doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, so it's not that great of a story, but I spent about 3 years running a small company in dentistry called Aura Pharma. There's a locally administered antibiotic for hygiene.
Okay.
And it was during that time I had an introduction to the then CEO of Dentsply Sirona. I came in to be the chief strategy officer for that organization, and then ultimately I led their ortho and clear aligner business. It was during that stint that I was introduced to Spear and a product we have, CDocs, through a partnership with Dentsply Sirona, and I realized this is what the industry needs, and I saw a lot of opportunity. So when the former CEO and co-founder, Kaleem Manji, was looking for a successor, I threw my name in the hat, and here I am.
Yep. It's awesome. Great story. You know, a lot of times we give a little background into the companies, but most people know Spear to be the gold standard in education for dentists. So I'm going to jump right into the main subject. What are big challenges that you see dentists facing right now that your organization as a whole is facing? What questions are dentists coming up and asking you about when they meet you or your team members?
Yeah, so it's a great question, Patrick. It's one that I probably answer or get asked all the time. But I think it's actually really simple in the sense that we're known as an educational business. So obviously the answers oftentimes gravitate towards that. But where we've really been trying to get people to realize is that we're really a workforce tool for organizations. And the problem that we're continually hearing of the challenges is, hey, we have high turnover. We've got early dentists that aren't prepared yet for the clinic. We've got onboarding issues, right? We're bringing on new employees and we don't have really good standard playbooks of how to onboard them efficiently. And so ultimately, this is not some syndicated data. This is Matt Coggin's view of dentistry. I tend to look, if you look at the public recordings of dental companies, mostly manufacturing, there's clearly a problem in the US versus the rest of the world. And I tend to equate that to a much higher turnover issue happening, partly because you have hygienists in the US more than you see OUS. So that's really where we've been retweaking and retooling Spear to ultimately really serve those early professionals, but also serve their team members and everyone else on the change management required, bringing on new employees, training employees, implementing new procedures, new change processes. So those are the problems, and that's why I think Spear is more relevant today than it's ever been.
Yep. Just actually Sunday, I was talking with an acquaintance of mine who's a transitions broker. He's been in the dental industry. He worked for Shine for 20 years, been in for a long time. And he said the number one reason that dentists go DSO, it's not money. He said it's getting rid of the headaches that come with building a team, keeping a team, labor issues, lawsuits. I mean, you go on and on and on. So let's talk about the solve. I know long run is, and first of all, any type of networking event, any type of networking organization, I think every business owner needs to be involved with networking. There's always two different ways you can learn, right? You can learn the really costly, painful way, which is trying to do it on your own, or you can work with people that have been there before you and can help you with a lot of these things, especially when it comes to, like you mentioned, onboarding and SOPs. That's the cheap, painless. Now it costs you monthly. You got to pay something to join, right? Yeah. It's not free, but it's usually way, way cheaper. So tell me how you guys are helping in those regards. How are you guys more hands-on? Is it more just, here's the trainings? Is it webinars. Tell me what's in it for dentists there.
Yeah, so thinking through really, I think the strategic or unique advantages, I should say, not strategic, for Spear is how we go about deploying change management, ongoing learning, what have you, implementation planning or execution. And I think it really comes down to one is I'll frame it up in the sense that the challenge that dentists have fundamentally, whether you're an associate or an owner, is you're really a CEO in essence, to some degree, whether you're
Sure.
earning some percentage of your net receivables or you're the owner of the practice. And in order to be an effective CEO, you generally have team members that have to work in cooperation with you, right? And I oftentimes say that the difference between me and, let's say, a dental CEO is often the fact that I spend all my time working on the business. And unfortunately, they spend most of the time working in the business, which gives them very little time to train, understand what are the problems that are having. Because when they're in practices, they're in the operatories treating patients.
Right.
I couldn't grow or I couldn't work within Spear if I was leading all the sales, leading all the HR functions and everything else at the scale that we are. And I
Sure.
think that there's a scaling issue that you see. So how do we service the customers? Now, the easy way is, look, we sell memberships for doctors to access our on-demand and our live and access or better bundling of live workshops or what have you. But what does that give you? And ultimately what that gives you is access to our next generation learning platform, which is really the ability to bring a dentist or a team member hygienist through learning pathways. So what we've really been retooling is it's not about just watching some content to get CE. It's about how do I get an ROI on this? If I'm trying to do something different, like what does that take? So what we've really figured is how do we blend education to a way where we can blend not only live and on demand, but we could blend now your team members understanding what you're trying to do and what's required of them to make the changes to drive patient acceptance or get the ideal outcome or the preferred outcome on the procedure. And we're doing it in an accelerated manner, but in a very standardized manner. So really where we want folks to look at Spear and say, well, that's really the outsource agent to ultimately train and develop me and my team because I don't have a head of training in my dental practice, right? I don't have business professionals that understand how to prompt and move people through educational learning or learning pathways. So that's really how we're servicing the customer is we'll meet you where you want to be met, right? We'll teach you
Sure.
whatever types of procedures you want. But in the end, where the rubber meets the road is you need to implement that. And like our path is, and we brought some really highly experienced educational technology folks who understand the learner, understand how to engage the learner through learning or through development. And we're now taking you through that journey in a very accelerated but very standard platform so that you, if you're the owner of that membership, you have analytics capabilities. You could see what's working. Is it driving the growth in that procedure? Or is your hygiene percentages correct? Or is your hygienist referring as many patients into the dental chair as they want as a benchmark would? And I
Sure.
think in the end, it really becomes a very good aid to the doctor. So I always say we become a proxy to your head of training because in the end, where we'd like to think is we're going to solve problems is I need to onboard a new associate and I need them up and running in 6 weeks. Here's the pathway that we will recommend to drive that to that. Here's what their hygienists are now engaging through, right? Or their dental
Sure.
assistants. So that's how we really see us better serving the dental community. And we're doing that across the live setting or the on demand, meaning the remote learning. We'll tuck you into a community so you're learning with like minded folks. And then we do have a service layer that sits on top where if you really want us to lean into the business, we partnered with Dental Intelligence so we could be extracting your data and now understanding are our pathways or our recommendation engines driving growth for your whatever you're trying to drive in the practice.
Right.
And then we layer a growth partner, a coach on top of this just to make sure that we're really trying to drive the enhancements of the platform.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's obvious you guys have come a long way from where it started, right? To what Spear started to what it is now. Pretty amazing to see that evolution. I think dentists that have been around in it for since day one know that,
Yeah.
or 20, 30 years going back. What is next? What do you think is coming next? How do you see Spear evolving and making changes for the future?
Yeah. Well, look, we're sort of on this accelerated plan of driving more membership, right? So we turned on our whole new platform December 20th. And in the
It's
last,
fantastic, by the way. I've been on it. It's amazing
oh,
what you do. done there yet.
And
It's
hopefully it's just getting better and better. We just launched
Yep.
a lot of the hygiene pathways. So if you want to get on board a hygienist in a very rapid fashion to be a co-therapist, to drive better perio-prophy ratios, et cetera, we just launched that last week, and we're going to continue to add more with clear aligners or what have you. So if you're trying to get associates up and running, dental hygienists running, you're trying to drive more clear aligners or whatever resto procedures you're also like, that's what we're really trying to drive. But really the future for us is pretty basic, where we're going to go drive a lot of members into the platform because we think this is the most ideal way to learn and the cheapest, best outsourced agent for the customer to learn and accelerate implementation of new procedures or better payer mix or better procedural mixes within their practice.
Right.
So we're on a very fast pathway. So we just added about 1,200 new members in the last 6 weeks, which is growing very fast. So we're holding on to our hats right now. But I truthfully think that eventually this really becomes where dentists are going to be viewing and hygienists and dental assistants are going to be viewing things. And I tend to think that if you're going to go hire somebody, you're probably going to want to see that they've gone through a certain amount of learning pathways with us, because why would I want to spend time training somebody who hasn't gone through basics when I would rather just push them through or find the best of the best? And I do think our platform will provide all of those types of things. But we're really looking to hopefully take the industry by storm. And hopefully this really becomes the de facto learning management system for all of dentistry.
Yeah, it's great. I'm going to tell the audience right now, if you want to learn more, go to speareducation.com, hit the start free button, top right. Good place to start. Start free. Can't beat that, right? So
Yeah.
It's definitely a place to start. I'm going to ask you one last question. Didn't prep you for this outside the box. As a CEO, big company, what's a book that you could recommend to dentists? Or if you had to recommend just one book, doesn't have to be a dentistry specific book, a business book, leadership book, a book on life. I don't care what it is. What's one book you'd recommend?
You know what? It's funny. It's always hard for me to find an answer for this. But I always find it's interesting. It is a business book, but it's an old, I'm dating myself. It's way before my time. There's a Herb Cohen book. It's a negotiating book on I care but not care that much. And I think that might be the title. But I think where it's helped me is really understand how to communicate. Right? Because I tend to think we're only as good as our ability to communicate, because we're all trying to make changes and make decisions each and every day.
Sure.
And how you can persuade or how you can continue to drive alignment across teams is oftentimes your strength of persuasion. And I think we get a lot of questions from dentists all the time, like, hey, are there things that'll help me with case presentations or case acceptances? And a lot of it, we're really trying to teach somebody how to manage the conflict of those discussions.
Yeah.
Right? How do you drive people to things that are rational, like treatment? But I've always found that a really good exercise. I always shared that with my team members to say, hey, guys, let's take a look at that book. It may just be a good read. He's got some really interesting history with working with Ronald Reagan and President Carter back in the day, Iran-Contra crises or what have you. But I've always found that a really good read.
Yeah, fascinating. I'll check it out and recommend it to the audience too. We'll make sure we put the book on the podcast. SpearEducation.com. Go check it out. Click free. Learn more. Check it out. There's so many things that have changed. Matt, thanks so much for coming on. We want to have you come back on sometime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Patrick, and look forward to the next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Dental Brief. If you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a colleague who could benefit. We're here to help dental professionals like you stay ahead of the curve, one brief episode at a time. You can find more episodes and resources at thedentalbrief.com. You can also join the Growth-Minded Dentist community on Facebook. Links are in the description. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and thanks for being part of the Dental Brief community.